Hey everyone, welcome to Roto Wire Fantasy Football Live Friday. Can't believe it. We're in week 5 already. Life is good. Remember, we're on 5 days a week, 11 a.m. Eastern. But if you missed the show, you can always catch the replay. No issue there. We are off Wednesdays and Thursdays. We're back from a couple days off. Could I say an extra energy boost? Probably not. Pretty energetic each day, I think, at least. Anyway, we are going to break down the Thursday night game today. We are going to have Adam Thompson of bookies.com on today to give 5 best bets for the week. And we are also going to break down some player trends and analysis. I tell people this all the time. When I have gambling experts on, watch who you're getting your gambling advice from. Make sure it's somebody that is really, really connected into it. Established winners, documented winners. And that's Adam Thompson. Obviously he's phenomenal at this, and he's on Fridays. And Saturday we have John Ryan on, another professional gambler, almost 3 decades worth. I just bring in the best for this. I'll give you some betting advice, more prop based. And if you want my props, follow me at Jim Coventry NFL. 61% of the season there. Got another set of good ones. I think it's 6 for this week. The threads will be coming up. So if you follow me at Jim Coventry NFL, you'll catch those threads. I'll give you the detailed analysis. If you don't like the analysis, don't roll with it. All right, let's get off to the Bears and the Commanders. Wow. So it was very tough to buy into the Bears going into this game. Morning, Charlene. Happy Friday. It was hard to buy into them coming in. They played Denver. I mean, Denver was terrible. And last week, the Bears put up 28 points, and we were excited for them. It was great to see Justin Fields have some success, 300 yards and 4 touchdowns in that game. And Washington's not like a world beater on defense, but, we looked at it, it's like, okay, well, let's see. And right, because the Bears' first 3 games, they were horrible on offense. So there was what to do with that. And I told people who asked about starting Fields, I go, look, consider him boom bust until we see a couple games, because the 3-game body, we couldn't ignore it. Oh, my goodness. He and DJ Moore just went off. And, the thing is, Washington has a really good pass rush. The Bears line somehow held up. Now, they got Tevin Jenkins back at left guard before the game. They made that IR switch back very, very late on him, but they were without their left tackle, Braxton Jones, but they held up well enough. I mean, Fields was under some pressure, but for the most part, they got rolling on the ground. Washington's not, again, they get a pass rush. Overall, they're not a very good defense. They've given up big points already. We saw them in the shootout with Denver already. We've seen that. But anyway, let's not throw shade on Justin Fields. You know what? He got it done 2 weeks in a row. 4 touchdown passes 2 weeks in a row. The running, he hasn't had a 60-yard game yet on the ground. And when you were investing him in a draft day, by now you would have expected probably a 100-yard game in there based on what we saw last year. But again, right now, put him back in the circle of trust. I mean, matchups will get tougher, but he's learned. Get the ball to DJ Moore. We talked about DJ Moore in the preseason. He is a superstar receiver. He's a legitimate top 12 NFL receiver who has had horrific quarterback play. He had an end-of-career Cam Newton whose shoulder wasn't working, backup-level quarterbacks, probably XFL-level quarterbacks at points in time, and yet he had 3 out of 4 years with 1,150 yards. So he's been productive. Last year, he had the touchdowns. The yardage wasn't there. He already has 530 yards and 5 touchdowns. He has 300-yard games in his last 4. So right now, obviously, DJ Moore wheels up. He's not going to get you 230 and 3 touchdowns like he did last night every week, but he's going to have a lot of 100-yard games here. He can win in so many ways, and we've talked about this. And yesterday, he was used a lot on the perimeter, but they've used him over the middle. They've used him on some screen passes. He is a versatile weapon, and the Bears just found what worked yesterday. And I know that touchdown late, little gamble by the corner, but hey, doesn't matter. DJ Moore cashes it in. Now, the running game, it was injury city for the Bears. Khalil Herbert has another great game, 10 carries, 76, but he dings up an ankle on a pass from Justin Fields that was thrown behind him. He had to make an adjustment. He rolled back on his ankle, tried to come back in and couldn't finish that up. But Herbert today says he's good. And the fact he tried to come back in the game, maybe it's all right. We'll monitor this one. I didn't have the appearance of a high ankle sprain. We'll be hopeful it was a low ankle sprain. More to come on that. But fortunately, gets an extra few days to heal up for week 6. Roshan Johnson, 3 carries, 19 yards, and he leaves with a concussion after playing 9% of the snaps. So, we don't know how that goes. What I've noticed this year, I believe, I could be wrong. There's only one player that played the next week coming back from a concussion this year. That used to happen pretty regularly. Now, I don't know if it's just a fluke, small sample size, but it is an extended week for Roshan Johnson. So hopefully he's well. That's the most important thing. But B, don't assume he's automatically back. And if he isn't back, and look, with bye weeks and injuries, you probably can't claim him. Now, I guess there are a few leagues where you can't claim people who played, but that's probably not many. But Deontay Foreman could find himself back in a role after being inactive. I believe the last 4 games. The opener, he was active. He's been active since. So if Roshan misses and Khalil Herbert is limited, Deontay Foreman could be, again, a player who could be useful in week 6. We all need running backs, right? Darnell Mooney didn't catch any of his 4 targets. He just misconnected on a deep play early in the game. So anyway, he'll be really hit or miss, more on the miss side, maybe the way things are looking right now. And Cole Kmet continues to get it done as well. This time only 5 targets. They didn't need him a ton. Catches all 5, 42 and a touchdown after last week's 85 yards and 2 touchdowns. And we talked about Kmet. He's the only physical presence in the middle of the field they have. He's had a connection with Justin Fields since they started playing together. Cole Kmet, and again, it's a very low bar to be a top 12 tight end. But right now, based on the state of the offense and his role in the offense, yeah, he's top 12 tight end. He is that. And I want to say he's at least, top of my head, 38 yards in 4 out of 5 games. And again, when you're talking tight end, a low bar. If you're doing something, I want to say his low game is 20 yards. So he's doing something every week. He's not goose egging for you. The Commander side, look, if you started Sam Howell, you got it done. 388 and 2 touchdowns, 19 yards on the ground. Good. And I had to start him in some leagues. There were leagues where I had Watson and Mayfield, Superflex leagues. And I didn't even say that. There were leagues where I had bye or an injury or both, and I needed to get Howell in for whatever reason. And it worked out. Again, he doesn't look good, but he's compiling for fantasy. He was fortunate. They played some shootout games. I mean, they had a 34-31 with Philly, and they, obviously last night, garbage time. So he's putting numbers up there, but he's not a good quarterback. I don't think his job is in jeopardy, though. I mean, Jacoby Brissett, I think they probably would be better with him, but I think the organization in Washington, they want to see and know exactly what Sam Howell is. And developmental time is important. But the way he takes sacks and holds the ball too long, it's a problem. And then obviously when the Bears went kind of prevent mode late in the game, he was just raking, just collecting the numbers. But when that game was competitive, he was a non-factor in the game. So just my thought out on him. Brian Robinson kind of got relegated due to game script. Obviously 6 carries, 10 yards. He did see 4 targets. Now, Antonio Gibson saw 6 targets because of the game script. Gibson played 54% to 36 for Robinson. And they both were in on passing downs. Gibson, I had I'm in these 14-team leagues with 3 flexes, and I drafted Gibson. I was nervous. I had to put him in many other options, but 10 PPR points, but he hasn't done that much. So it is concerning. So, Gibson right now, PPR, you're getting a small floor, but that 10 points, that may be one of the better games you see out of him for a while, so not so good. Terry McLaurin, 4 for 49, got a couple catches late. Jahan Dotson, 6 targets, 3 for 30. The middle of the field guys, Curtis Samuel was eating, Logan Thomas was eating. And, sometimes I mentioned this, when you have these quarterbacks who are under pressure, their best friend is the middle of the field because those are the quicker, more efficient throws. And throwing to the perimeter, a little more time to develop often, unless it's a quick hitter, which they're not throwing. Pass rush comes in, you got to stare it down. So we see he's got a comfort level. Curtis Samuel has at least 50 yards in 3 straight games. And Logan Thomas, last week, he only had 3 for 41. He was targeted 8 times in the opener. He was knocked out of the second game. He and his backup had a total of 8 targets together. Thomas had 11 targets yesterday. I have Thomas rostered in a lot of places, but right now, again, Logan Thomas has been injuries. He is a very, very gifted tight end. He's in his 30s, but he definitely is a top 10 tight end. And like the 3 for 41 last week was a floor game, but he's getting targets regularly, and he will continue to do that. So definitely I'm all in on Logan Thomas. And all right, who do we see next? We have the other players were basically all in because of situation. Late in the game, we saw some Byron Pringle, some Jamison Crowder, a little more John Bates. The game was out of hand, and at some point they left Howell in, but they brought in a lot of the backups to play. So that's it. Anyway, if you're enjoying the show, please consider hitting the like and subscribe button if you're on RotoWire YouTube. Bottom of the hour, we got Adam Thompson of bookies.com coming in to break down 5 games. It will learn for football, but also if you're gambling, that'll certainly help you there. And remember, I'll be putting threads up all weekend at Jim Coventry NFL on Twitter. Props for player props. That's my specialty. Be going over those 61% in the year, hoping to build on that this year. All right, let's talk a few player trends. So we'll start with Jalen Hurts. Fine enough for fantasy. Can't complain. 319 and 2 touchdowns last week. The prior week he had a passing touchdown and a rushing touchdown. He hasn't had the extreme ceiling that we paid for. That's the problem. The rushing, top of my head, I don't think he has a 60-yard game on the ground. I think it's like Fields. I think he's less. He's not as close. He's not getting the big rushing games. And so right now, but basically with Joe Burrow flaming out and, Lamar's been good, but Justin Fields had until the last weeks, he was flaming out for 3 weeks. He's kind of back. So Hurts has been fine for the freight you paid for him with so many quarterbacks struggling, but he's not been that upside play. And I still believe it's basically Brian Johnson, the offensive coordinator. It's not easy to come in and take over for Shane Steichen. Shane Steichen understood which levers to pull in game based on what opponents were presenting. And Steichen did it so seamlessly, the offense never missed a beat. And we see now defenses are, they're trying different stuff, and there's different areas of success. And what Brian Johnson has basically done the last 2 games is I think he's decided, let's get the ball to A.J. Brown more. And that's always smart to do. Dallas Goedert's not getting efficiency out of his targets. A.J. Brown's not, Devontae Smith. He did get 9, I believe, last week, but basically A.J. Brown is a game breaker. And I wondered last year, why are they giving more targets to Devontae Smith in the second half than A.J. Brown? A.J. Brown is a game changer. He's an alpha. And no shade on Devontae Smith. He's a great player too. But A.J. Brown is in the elite class. When you give him the ball, he could produce with every other receiver in the game. I don't care if his name is Tyreek Hill. I don't care if his name is Justin Jefferson. If A.J. Brown is getting the ball as much as they do, give me A.J. Brown all day long. Because A.J. Brown can run by you, over you, through you, doesn't matter. A.J. Brown is the alpha stud. He just needs the volume. And it is what it is there. But Jalen Hurts, that's the thing. Right now, you're going to have a great floor. You have a moderate ceiling. But until they go back and they re-unlock the running for him, that ridiculous weekly upside, those 40-point games, those aren't going to be there. That's the problem. Charlene, you picked up Jamison Williams. Yeah, so Jamison Williams, here's the only thing I'm going to say. We love the speed, right? When we went into the preseason, Dan Campbell, he wears his heart on his sleeve. The man does not really mess around. He tells you what's going on. So he mentioned with Jamison Williams, he was upset last year. Williams, not acclimating as quickly as he would have liked. He got him on the field for limited snaps. And then this year he said in the preseason, first of all, he was pissed that he got not dinged for gambling. But more importantly, he said, Jamison Williams needs reps. And he needs reps in preseason. He needs reps in preseason games. And what did Jamison Williams do? Got hurt. He missed most of the preseason games. Dan Campbell was telling us that Jamison Williams does not understand the nuances of the game and the offense they're running right now. Sauger, all right. And Aaron's here as well. Welcome, everybody. And so that's the problem we have. Dan Campbell does not believe that Jamison Williams is ready to be an NFL contributor. And that missed time in the preseason was very detrimental. And then you can't be with the team during the suspension. And so he's behind on a lot. Now he has game-breaking speed, but how many snaps is he going to get? So, is he going to be just a situational deep threat and Jared Goff deep passes? It's tough. It's tough. So if you have a roster spot, definitely, add Williams, but be careful at first. I would be nervous to put him in a starting lineup. And again, he's this guy with game-breaking speed. If they throw him 2 passes, can he get 110 yards and a touchdown? Yeah, he can. We saw it last year. He had the 1 touchdown, the second one he had called back, so it wasn't even a target, didn't even go down. But he had another one long, called back by some kind of offensive penalty. But the speed is real. But I'm nervous about his role. But again, depending what depth of league you're in, that's important to know. But yes, if he gets in and acclimates, that's huge for them. Now I'm on Ross St. Brown, like Charlene said, dealing with an abdominal injury. We don't really know the status that we expect he'll play. Josh Reynolds is still dinged up a little bit, so there's that. All right, continuing quarterbacks, and again, 10:30 got Adam Thompson of bookies.com coming in, very excited for that. Desmond Ridder, I don't know how in good conscience after last week's game they keep him in that starting role. I mean, the one thing that we knew they wanted, Arthur Smith, don't turn the ball over. Fine, he wants to play defense, he wants to run the ball, doesn't want his quarterback hurting him. Well, 2 picks last week, 1 pick a few weeks ago. It's piling up. He's not the mistake-free quarterback they were looking for. Completion percentage for what he's throwing isn't great either, and they have him throwing too many downfield shots too. And that's part of the problem. He's not an accurate thrower. So if you're in a super flex league, I'm sure in most highly competitive ones, Taylor Heineke's rostered somewhere because everybody is waiting for the next quarterback to fall. But if you're in a super flex league, I would take speculative move on Heineke if he's available, because Heineke might be a bad quarterback in terms he goes YOLO so much and he makes mistakes. But if he's in, he's got weapons. I mean, and he had weapons in Washington. He was productive for different times, but we're talking like Kyle Pitts and, Drake London level weapons, and even Bijan as a receiver out of the backfield. So we could see viable quarterback 2 play if Heineke were to take over. But Ridder right now, it's a very, very nerve-wracking situation here. Not excited at all about him. Let's go to a couple running back players we're looking at here. A little downward trending. So Josh Jacobs, look, he's getting it done for fantasy. No questions there. His receptions was getting it done. 8 for 81 and 11 targets. He had 3 for 18 the week prior, 5 for 51. So he's getting it done there. But as a runner, oh my gosh, he's not even sniffing close to 4 yards a carry. I mean, it's bad. He had a 17 for 58 last week, about 3.5 there. But there were a couple things I questioned. I never want to pay for the career year, so I was out on Jacobs for that. That year came out of nowhere for him. And then the second thing is, with this discord in the offseason, I wondered what his training was like. I wonder how hard he worked when he was away from the team all summer. How is he working? It's possible it's a buy low moment. Now, I don't know if anybody's selling Josh Jacobs because of the receptions. The receptions enough get it done. But it's still worth considering. It's possible that he's working his way back into shape as things are going on, and maybe he will get that running element back to his game. But sometimes the career year is just, it depends. If you could get him on the somewhat cheap, like if you could get him for a wide receiver and you have other depth receivers to fill in, but you're really stuck at running back, make an offer. Wide receiver 25, 30 in that range, on the, like there's a wide receiver, bottom end wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, and maybe package that with something and see if you can get Jacobs. Like I said, last year is not going to happen again. But if somebody's frustrated, knock on the door and see what happens. But again, home against the Packers this week is another good spot for him. So obviously he'll continue to put fantasy points up, just not to last year's level. A lot of people were excited about Sean Tucker. I just want to point out a couple things here. Sean Tucker, first of all, he didn't even get a snap last week. And I think that right now in Chase Edmonds, like I said, whatever, he was on injured reserve. He looked good when he's on the field. He looked good down the stretch when he's at Denver last year. Remember, Miami was a train wreck. But then he goes to Denver on a trade, has a high ankle sprain, comes back. Last 2 games of the season, it was vintage Chase Edmonds. Chase Edmonds looks fine. He's going to be back pretty soon. Sean Tucker had 8 carries for 7 yards, and he had a 2 carry for 1 yard. So, hey, I'm not a math guy, but to me, that's 10 carries for 8 yards in 2 games. And 10 carries for 8 yards ain't getting it done. Even Rachaad White's better than that. And Rachaad White's not so good, but he's, getting enough. Well, so Sean Tucker right now, if you were holding him, I don't see any viable reason to hang on to him and keep him. If it's a dynasty league, fine, you believe in him, whatever, I get that. But if you're in a 1-year league, like I said, make the speculative pick of Chase Edmonds because Keyshawn Vaughn got work over Tucker last week. So that said, I do think Chase Edmonds is going to be a thing in this offense. I assume he gets back healthy from his injury, but I assume that's going to be correct. If you have an IR spot, you can pick him up and IR him. All right. Kareem Hunt. I know he came in last week with dinged up ribs, so there's that. But 2 games, 10 carries, 25 yards. He does have a couple catches for 22. He's playing about 20% of the snaps. He was declining last year. Nobody wanted him in the offseason, clearly. He wanted money. He was probably holding out for that and didn't get it. Probably thought he was worth more than he probably was. He's on a bye this week. So if you're thinking the ribs were an issue, if there's a chance for him, it would be coming out of the bye. But I just think, and he might not have been in game shape yet. There's that too, right? So we got possible game shape. We got possible ribs injury. So if you're a believer in Kareem Hunt, you do have one more buying opportunity because whoever's rostering him is probably not really excited. But if you buy, and it's the bye week, they come back for week 6. That's your litmus test. If he comes back, snap shares up in the 30s, he's looking a little bit better, fine. But otherwise, that's it. If he doesn't do it then, you probably know that's declining back. And his age doesn't dictate that. He's not old. But some players decline at different rates. But we saw clear decline last year. Remember, if you want some threads on prop betting, team totals, those are my sweet spots. At Jim Coventry NFL on Twitter, get you set up there. Also, we're doing the live stream starts it. We are going to do it on Sundays. Powers that Be told me that even though there's a London game, let's just do it on Sunday. So we'll be here at 11 a.m. answering your questions, get you guys and gals all set up for success in this situation. We're excited to do the start sit stream. Saturday, usual, we'll have John Ryan and DFS and Gambling Show. We'll get you set up there as well. So get it to give me a follow at Jim Coventry NFL on Twitter. That's the hub where everything's at. I will be on Sirius XM this weekend, Saturday 1 to 3 with Mario Puig, Sunday 9 to 10 a.m. These are Eastern times with Alan Soslowski. It'll be awesome to talk to you there and hear you there. All right, wide receivers. Now, a few of these players are trending. I do some trending down guys on Friday, but I'll do some trending ups as well in here because I didn't cover these players earlier in the week. Nico Collins. So I've talked about him frequently. So he was showing signs of breaking out last year. He missed games. He missed games rookie year. He missed more games last year. But on a per game basis, you could see there was growth. And he always was very good in the red zone and on the boundary as a receiver. Bobby Slowick, the offensive coordinator, is now scheming him those 49ers type routes where he is getting open quickly into space, led into yards after catch. And he is playing at an extremely high level. I mean, he had that 2 catch for 34 game 2 weeks ago, but I mean, obviously he has a 146 and a touchdown 2 weeks ago, 168 and 2 touchdowns last week. Yeah, he's not getting that every week. Nobody but Justin Jefferson is getting that kind of yardage. But Nico Collins right now, top 15 receiver. That's his role in the offense. CJ Stroud is for real. They're doing it with 4 linemen out and 2 backups out. So that line will get better. That role is not changing. That role has worked in the NFL for a long time. Collins can play the position. Stroud can get it to him. Collins is the alpha receiver in this offense. Like all good receivers, they will have occasional down weeks. We understand that. We live with that. Nico Collins, don't think twice. He's your guy. All right, Romeo Doubs is next. I only want to point out a couple things. So in the last 2 weeks, look, Romeo Doubs is a good player. All right. First of all, I don't want to make any mistake on that. 9 for 95 on 13 targets last week. 5 for 73 and a touchdown on 12 targets the prior week. Here's the thing. Now, Green Bay's going to have games where they're trailing, And obviously that's going to help the game script. The last 2 weeks, they had that big comeback against New Orleans. They were buried by Detroit. They had to come back, and the pass attempts went way, way, way up. Now, when it's going right for Green Bay, like the first 2 weeks of the season, quarterback's not throwing the ball more than 28 times a game. Volume's an issue. Now, Dobbs, Christian Watson, still limited practice. I don't really get this, but if it's just being precautionary, as soon as Christian Watson is a full go, that's a ding on Dobbs' target volume. Aaron Jones, probably a full go. Last week he was on a snap count. They were bringing him back from injury. Now 11 days off. He's probably a full go. The offense will be healthier with Aaron Jones and Christian Watson. Aaron Jones, look, A.J. Dillon, we talked about this on, I believe, Monday or Tuesday. He's got nothing. He's like a 2-yard per carry guy right now. We talked about this in the preseason too. He's been declining each of his few years in the league. He's not a good running back right now. He doesn't get yardage. He's terrible at the goal line. Week one, he got 2 cracks at the goal line. Of course, he didn't get in. And then they bring in Aaron Jones on third down and he walks in. Last week, stuffed at the goal again. A.J. Dillon, whatever he is, he's not running. So Aaron Jones, if the coaching staff is rational, and I don't know if they are, if they're going to, hopefully, if Jones is healthy, he's seeing 75% of the work. That's going to include some targets. My point is this. Packers offense is going to run through Jones, hopefully for them Watson, and obviously the quarterback is the trigger man. Well, Dobbs is going to see volatile targets, and that's going to be the thing. He's a very good player, all right? But the 13 to 12 targets makes him a sell high because I don't think we're going to see a lot of games with more than 6 or 7 targets, but people see these last 2 weeks. You might get something, if you're dealing for a running back, you might throw out Romeo Dobbs' name there to see if you get that in trade talks. That might definitely work there. All right, but anyway, that's it. But again, good player. Hold him. You can hold him, but just don't expect that you were getting. If it's a chance to sell high, that's just an opportunity I want to point out. Adam Thielen. I saw it on film last year. The dude can't run. What do I say? He's running. He's open enough, right? 54 and a touchdown 3 weeks ago with Bryce Young, 145 and a touchdown with Andy Dalton. Last week, 76 yards with Bryce Young. He's gotten it done 3 weeks in a row. That's at least 14.6 PPR points in 3 straight weeks. Start him. I imagine, he was toast with Minnesota and Kirk Cousins left. He was toast. Very, nothing left. I have to think at some point this dries up. Do you find a fountain of youth? I don't know. This is something. But ride him. If you're worried it's going to dry up, it's a real sell high moment. You should be able to get something for Adam Thielen, but you could just ride him too. And maybe he keeps it up. Again, what I saw last year, it wasn't injuries. It wasn't flukish, but he's productive. And here's the thing. CJ Stroud, talk about him. He was the guy from the preseason. I go, well, he's probably more the classic quarterback. He's going to get the ball more to his outside guys. And we see it. Woods and Collins have been involved. Bryce Young, to me, he was that rookie quarterback who's going to have to live in the middle of the field more. Well, that's more of Adam Thielen's world, right? So it is a perfect marriage that way. So we'll keep it that way. Anthony, good to see you. Yeah, yep, good call. Yep, it's something, right? Exactly, Anthony. Good call. I'll put that comment up there. Very nice. And Charlene, oh yeah, Cowboys in the 49ers game. It's before Adam's going to come in 2 minutes here so I can talk for a minute. So that's an interesting game. So the Cowboys, the way to beat their defense is to leverage their linebackers. Their linebackers aren't great in coverage. Even their safeties. Their safeties are asked to do a lot in that scheme. And if you use play action against them, it's problematic because they're expected to play fast in the Dan Quinn defense. And if one team could leverage as the 49ers, the way they need to get, this needs to be a Kittle game. It needs to be a Kittle game. You need to get Kittle out against the linebackers and safeties. You need to use McCaffrey as a receiver. Not that they wouldn't do that, but you need to isolate him on the linebackers. And that's going to be the fun point of this game. Adam Thompson, just breaking down a little bit of this 49ers Cowboys game before we get to your gambling, but I figured I'd bring you in here. I was just talking about how the Cowboys defensively, the one place you could get them is their linebackers are not great in coverage, and their safeties are asked to do a lot for Dan Quinn. They have to play really fast, and if you use play action, it complicates their math. And so this would be the Kittle game, getting McCaffrey specifically isolated on linebackers, and they always do use Ayuk on crossers and things. So I think that is where the 49ers edge is going to be. Any thoughts on how the 49ers might function offensively against Cowboys, Adam?
Yeah, and Brock Purdy, what a perfect guy he's been for this offense. I mean, he's going 20 of 21 passing in games, and you have Christian McCaffrey, so you can't even pay attention to Purdy and all of his myriad of weapons, because if you do, McCaffrey's going to run for 100 plus yards on you, and that's what the Cowboys are going to face. This is going to be a fantastic game. This is the game of the week. I'm glad it's on prime time. I'm excited for it. 3.5 points is an interesting line too. You're really begging people. You're daring people to take the Cowboys at plus 3.5 there. So that's an interesting line. That's going to be a great game.
And I'll be interested to see how the Cowboys do offensively here. The 49ers have an excellent defense. They've had some easier competition. I don't think it's a world beater defense. They're very, very good. But again, I think this is a team where the Cowboys, for the first time all year, they have their offensive line back. And I think if you get really serious about the run with that line, heavy tight end sets, some CeeDee Lamb, mixing it up in the crossers, I think they'd have some sense. But I think they're going to struggle to score points. Any quick words on that, Adam?
Yeah, I like Tony Pollard. I think McCarthy's always been a coach that's kind of tried to establish the run. I'll be damned if he has Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. He still wants to establish the run. He's still going to go after it in Green Bay. Kind of the same thing here, but in the two close games that Dallas has had, Pollard has had 20 plus carries in both of them. So I think his over under, I think, for yards was in the 50s for this game. If he gets 20 plus carries again, he's going to get over 50 plus yards, I think.
Oh, good. I can't wait for the game. Anyway, I'm going to formally welcome in Adam Thompson of bookies.com. We talked about it last week. Adam is a documented winner. He's been with Sportsline CBS in the past, but bookies now. Documented winner. And Adam gives you a breakdown on games. He understands the NFL. He knows trends, but he knows the NFL as well. So when he's giving you his advice, you'll hear it right away. So like we both talked about last week, listen to what we say. If you agree with it, bet. If you don't agree with it, go your own way. But Adam, season so far, how's it going?
Season's going good. Last week was not the best week, although I did still finish in the black. I went 2-3 on my best bets, but we put money totals on these best bets, and I actually came out ahead $5. So sometimes it's just about surviving a week for the next week. So that's what we're doing here. But even on a bad week, you still finish. You can still go buy a pack of Skittles and maybe a sandwich at McDonald's or something too.
Exactly. So Adam, first game, it's the London game, 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. And as soon as you start talking, I'm going to walk away and cough for a minute. So I'm going to set you up. Bills -5.5 against the Jaguars. Go ahead and start. So when I got to go cough, excuse me.
Where's your cough button? You need a cough button. Jacksonville, they haven't scored over 23 points since week 1. And in that game, now that you're back, I'll just start. That was pretty quick. I said, "Where's your cough button?"
You know what? My whole mic deactivates for whatever reason when I do that. Like I can't get it back on.
Oh, that's not cool.
Yeah, no.
So Jacksonville, they've only scored 23. They haven't scored more than 23 points since week 1. And that 1 week, they needed 14 fourth quarter points to rally against a pretty poor Colts defense. Now they're taking on a Bills team that ranks number 1 in interception rate, number 1 in sack rate, and an offense that's scored 37 plus points in their last 3 games. So not a good matchup for the Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence, this offense just has not hit its stride yet, and they're going to need to score 30 to keep up, I think. And I don't think that's going to happen. It's interesting that they're in London, through the week. What does that mean? I guess nobody really knows for sure. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? But I don't think it means enough at this point. I really like Buffalo to cover that game.
Buffalo, like you're saying, this is the Super Bowl type team we were thinking last year. And everybody forgets this team went through the ringer last year. It was Josh Allen's elbow and everybody seems to forget they weren't as good because the second thing though, by the time they get to the playoffs, they were dealing with a DeMar Hamlin situation, emotionally wrecked them. And you could tell in that playoff game against Cincinnati, they were spent. They were done. And this is a Super Bowl caliber team. And Adam, Von Miller says he expects to play in this game.
Right, which is a huge deal, obviously. And Stephon Diggs is happy. And that shouldn't be discounted either because, when he goes south, he kind of takes people with him. So, yeah, everything's rolling right now. We saw a lot. It's interesting. Miami was kind of the darling of the league going into last week. The Bills are still favored. They were at home only by 2.5 points. And people were saying, why are they favored? Miami is a superstar powerhouse. And Buffalo just sent a message to everybody in the league that they're not going anywhere. They're still here. And I think now they're showing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the last thing, you did mention this a bit, and we did have a question about the travel for the Bills. Bills traveling. The thing with the Jaguars, so it's a 6-hour time difference, and that is a bit troubling. Now, the Jaguars, having been there for over a week now, they probably have acclimated it body clock wise by being there for that amount of time. Is there anything on that that's nerve wracking, or do we just not enough variables, throw it out because we don't know enough?
Yeah, it's worth consideration. Because one team is traveling all this distance and the other one isn't, which is interesting. That hasn't happened before. Jacksonville is kind of the home team of London. I don't know if people in London care about that.
No.
I don't see a lot of Jaguars jerseys when I'm watching Premier League soccer on Saturday mornings. But I think Buffalo. I think the fans will be there to see Josh Allen and those guys. And in the long scheme of things, these guys, they hop on a plane, they take a nap, they show up. Everything is handled for them. This isn't like you and me traveling to London for a week. Yeah, exactly. They're going to be fine. They have every nutritionist, every sleep expert, whatever they need, whatever they want, they have it. So I think once the ball kicks off, I think it's the Bills against the Jaguars.
Beautiful. That's important. I'm glad you covered it because I think people do want to know that. It's a great thing to cover. Next one. So, Adam, I think Vegas is trying to sucker us here. They know the history of the Ravens and the Steelers. You put that 3.5 line up there, and everybody's saying, oh, yeah, well, this matchup is always 3 points or less. So it's Steelers. I don't know about that. Steelers are a pretty bad team right now. They're not coached well on offense. They have injuries. Defense, I think Highsmith is going to be out this game as well. One of their top pass rushers. They're already without Cam Hayward, one of their best run defenders. Ravens are getting healthy right now. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, and that's pretty much it. The Ravens have been really good. But they're getting healthy. Marlon Humphrey is back. The 2 wide receivers are back. Their offensive linemen are finally getting healthy here. And the Steelers, they rank bottom 10 in the NFL. I think they're the only team. They rank bottom 10 in the NFL in rush offense, rush defense, pass offense, pass defense. They're 29th in total offense, 30th in total defense. Kenny Pickett is going to play this game banged up with a knee. That may not, maybe they should just rest him for a game. You have Trubisky there. Trubisky's maybe the best backup in the league, or at least one of them on paper. I'm surprised they've decided to go that route. And Mike Tomlin said, we're making changes, we're doing things. And they made a couple changes, but, Baltimore is just playing so well right now. They've really kind of figured it out. Their injuries, are starting to heal. The running back situation, they're deep enough to be fine without Dobbins. So I think, these games are close. 3.5 you're laying on Baltimore on the road against, at Pittsburgh. That's usually not great. But I think this situation, I think the Steelers are just free falling. I don't see a real bounce back spot for them here. And I think Baltimore keeps it going.
Yeah. And, the coaching here, like that Matt Canada. Oh, my God. I just don't know how. And I know they like organizational stability there. I just don't get it. I have no idea why they are not making a change there or doing something, but they are hurting themselves desperately bad. So you got Adam, you're going with the Ravens minus 3.5. How much do they win this game by? I think they win it by at least a touchdown. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think so. And the backdoor possibilities, you always have to worry about that with especially road favorites, but I don't see it as much here because I just think, without Deontay Johnson, It's just kind of a mess right now in that passing game, and I think Baltimore, if they can get a quick lead, that's a offense you don't want to have to deal with when you're behind, because Lamar Jackson can run. They're figuring it out. They really are doing what they want to do right now, and that spells trouble.
Man, now next game, Lions against the Panthers, and Lions big number -9.5. I haven't seen it hit 10 yet. Maybe it does at some point in time. How do you handicap this game, Adam?
Yeah, it is 10 in some spots. It started at 8.5. I was late to the show. I got it at 9.5. Now it's 10. I think it might go back. 10 is a bad number. You kind of want to avoid 10 if you can, but Detroit's just humming right now. And Carolina, when Bryce Young starts, they have 2 touchdowns on offense in 3 games. He's the lowest, QBR in the league. That offense just does not have anything going. And the Lions, they're one of the top 5 teams when it comes to pressuring the quarterback, hitting the quarterback, despite ranking 31st in blitzes. So they don't even need to blitz to hammer you if you're a quarterback. That's bad news for Bryce Young. That's bad news for that offense. And the Lions offensively are just humming right now. And, they have that momentum. They haven't played since last Thursday, but they pounded the Packers in Green Bay. They can't let this one slide. Detroit's actually getting amped up for a home game. The fans are. That probably hasn't happened since Barry Sanders was running around. So I think the Lions roll here. I think this is blowout city. I think Dan Campbell. He's a coach that he seems like a no nonsense kind of psycho-ish kind of coach. He's not going to allow the letdown of beating Green Bay in Green Bay and then coming home playing Carolina and laying an egg. I just think they take care of business. They get to a big lead. They're up by 14-21 at halftime, and then they kind of slog it away but still win by double figures.
I think it was an important addition that you made, that Adam, talking about the letdown, because I think that's the one thing that people are asking. They're thinking, all right, Lions are going to have 2 big wins, especially a big one at Green Bay. And they're thinking, well, maybe they let down. But you answered that really well. Dan Campbell's personality doesn't seem to be the one. It's like, we work. And I think that's an important point in this discussion. So let's move next. Jets and the Broncos. I don't, in my mind, understand how the Broncos are favored. Now, I know they might get some people back on defense, but this is not a good defense. And they let go of Randy Gregory this week, who was like maybe their one pass rusher that had some juice potential to it. And I don't get that. Offensively, some people are saying Russell Wilson's doing fine. When they're getting blown out, he's putting points on the board. But we saw it even against the Bears. You fall behind against them. So I think that, when they're chasing, they're scoring some points. I don't think much here. But Adam, am I crazy? What 2.5 points to Jets? How are you breaking this game down?
Yeah, I like the Jets in this one. I think, Zach Wilson, he's in New York, so he's double scrutinized. If he was in Carolina, nobody would be calling for his head as much. Now he's not good. Let's not get crazy. But we saw what he could do last week against the Chiefs defense. That's way, way, way better than this Broncos defense that he's going to face. Play at that same level, and let's see the Jets defense wreak havoc on Russell Wilson the same way they did against Mahomes. I was really impressed with this Jets team. They should have beaten Kansas City. They got kind of hosed on some calls, and things just didn't go their way at the end. And Mahomes made just enough plays. But the way that defense played, the way Zach Wilson played, I think they can go into Denver and win this game. And then, Denver's run defense is just bad. They're not stopping anybody. People are rushing for 200 yards against these guys, and the Jets have running backs. We just haven't seen them, match their potential. Dalvin Cook's rushing, for 1 point something yards per attempt. That's horrible. But you look at the running backs on this team, Breece Hall just got the green light to go 100%. I think this could be another game where those 2 guys really kind of set up Zach. They could, use the run to set up the pass and score some points here in Denver. And Russell Wilson, what can you say anymore? I mean, they got down 28-7 to the Bears. Now it doesn't look so bad because what they just did to Washington.
Right.
But like you said, they don't wake up until they're down by 2 touchdowns. And this Jets defense is way better than Chicago's defense. They're not going to allow that kind of comeback. So I like New York plus 2.5. Yes. It's fluctuating. I would like to get +3, but I took it at plus 2.5. I think they're going to win the game.
Any chance of going money line on this? Do you need the 2.5 points?
No, I don't think so. I'm more of a spread person. than I am but I think the Jets do win. The one thing about Denver is they've played a lot of close games. They played the Raiders to a 1 point game. I think the three of their 4 games have been decided by 3 points or less. So they do play close games. That's why I took the spread. But I do think the Jets are going to win this game. So if you're a money line guy, don't hesitate.
We had a quick question. Anthony's asking about a sell high on Garrett Wilson. What I want to point out is this. Garrett Wilson has had a murderous schedule. Kansas City is excellent against the pass. He goes 9 for 60 on 14 targets. New England takes out the number 1 target, and we know they confuse the hell out of Zach Wilson. He still goes 5 for 48 in that one, which is fine. And then Dallas, it's a long touchdown, but Dallas was in their backfield more than Breece Hall was, the defenders, I should say, and he goes 2 for 83 and a touchdown. So my guess is Garrett Wilson's going to see a crap ton of targets. The schedule is definitely getting easier than it's been. I'm hanging on to Garrett Wilson here. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, he'll probably face Surtain, right? Patrick.
29% man he plays. He only plays man 29% of the time.
Okay. So he won't even play. So, yeah, I mean, Garrett Wilson, I can understand the thinking between selling high because Zach Wilson's his quarterback now for the remainder of the year.
Right.
But that's his security blanket. I mean, he's going to get, double-digit targets in a lot of these games, especially going forward. The teams he faced, like you said, some of these defenses he's faced have been awesome. The Jets have not had an easy road to start. I think that's going to change. And, Garrett Wilson, I think, is clearly a top 10 wide receiver, if not top 5. I think he has that talent, and I think I'd stick on to him if I can. Unless you really need a running back and Christian McCaffrey's available or something. Right.
And then my point was going to be this, and I'm kind of following up on that you're not getting a haul for Garrett Wilson. He hasn't done enough. You roster him, you just understand it's diminished expectations. He was going to be a 1,500-yard receiver at Aaron Rodgers. That's the way it was going to be. He's not going to be that. He's going to be an 1,100-yard receiver, which he was last year. Bad quarterback play, semi. That's what you're getting. New expectation, but I don't think you're fleecing the market with him. I don't think that world is out there. Try it. If you can, great. Last one, Adam. So Eagles are -4 against the Rams. The Rams are expecting to have Cooper Kupp back. They did list him limited practice Wednesday. McVay said he did everything he normally would do. So it looks like he's back. Left tackle's a bit of a mess. Joe Noteboom looks like he might not be able to go, and his backup, Alaric Jackson's hurt. And we did see what the Bengals did to that offensive line on Monday night. That said, how are you breaking down Eagles-Rams here?
Yeah, if you look strictly at who these teams have played and how things have gone, you could argue that the Rams are the better team based on exactly what you've seen. But people are dogging the Eagles, but they're undefeated. They're 4-0, and 3 of their 4 wins were by 5 points or less. The spread is 4. 3 of their 4 wins were by 5 points or less. The other one should have been if Washington would have scored a touchdown on the game's final play. So they're still getting it done. They're just not beating everybody by 21 to 24 points like everybody was expecting them to. But I think I'm still not sold on this Rams team. They're 2-2. That's better than what I thought. I bet against them when they were up in Seattle, and they hosed me there right away. But I'm still not sold. I think Matthew Stafford is back, but now he's banged up. Now he has a hip. Now he's less mobile with a banged up offensive line against this front Eagles that can terrorize him. And Cooper Kupp may be back, but all that's going to do is take away plays from their other studs that have emerged on this team. So. I think there are concerns. Philly hasn't been spectacular at guarding the pass. People have been successful throwing on them, but I just think the run game and just the offense in general, and I think Stafford's just going to get harassed. So -4, on the road because it's at SoFi. There might be as many, if not more, Eagles fans there than Rams fans. So I think you can discount that. Laying 4 for a team that should have won every game by at least 5, I think they're going to do so here.
And we got one quick question from Chandler. He wants to know about James Cook, 17.5 receiving yards against the Jaguars. I didn't target that as any of the props I was looking at. I don't know that they're going to have to use him as a receiver here. The pass rush is not great, so I don't think they'll need to be dump offs. In terms of design screens, Not sure they need that here, but Adam, any leans one way or the other, I would tend to just avoid the bet because I have no idea how they would deploy him in that part of the game this week.
Yeah, I think you made a good point how they're not ferocious at getting after the quarterback. Trevor Lawrence isn't going to have to dump it off to him a bunch, and that's not really how they use him. So, it's a modest number, I think. And James Cook, I think they should get the ball to James Cook more in that regard, in that way. But I don't have a lean one way or the other like you on that one.
Yeah, exactly. All right, everybody. Thank you for being with us. Adam Thompson, tell everybody where they can find you and your work.
Find me on the socials, Twitter at BookiesAdam, and all the picks will be posted at bookies.com/picks. Nice and easy to remember.
Make sure you're following Adam. He's with us every Friday. We'll be back tomorrow and Sunday with the Start Sit Show at 11 a.m. Eastern. Everybody have a great day, and we will talk.